to the F1 Wheel Nuts podcast. This is episode 2. We're reviewing the Chinese Grand Prix, which happened earlier today. It was a great race. Before we got started with that, I just want to give a quick shout out to ESPN and Mother's Car Polish for delivering a great coverage. I know the first race that we had in the US from ESPN, it was, lack of a better word, a disaster. And Mother's Car Polish came and gave full coverage. Their logo's out there. So if you are, if you are an F1 fan in the US, please go support Mother's Car Polish. I know we all will. And I don't even wash my car.
And we're by no means sponsored by Mothers.
Yes.
But we'd like to be.
So let's get started with the race. Great race. Strategy played a huge part, I think, even from the start with Mercedes and Ferrari, and then you had the safety car played into Red Bull's hands. You had Daniel Ricciardo coming through the field. You had Max Verstappen crashing through the field. So it was just great from every perspective.
I just want to point out that I actually called that in our first podcast that he would be searching for something red to hit since he drives a bull. All right.
Sure did, Nick.
Bulldozer.
Sure
A bulldozer, but he still hit something red.
We gave Nick cookies earlier today for that. So, I mean, from the start of the race, Kimi and Vettel got into it. Vettel squeezed Raikkonen a little bit, and he ended up losing some positions. Nick, is that the racer in Vettel, or is it just
that's the 4-time champion there, just knowing what he has to do to get to the front? I think Mark said it while we were watching. He said visor down. They may be all friends before the race, but when those red lights go out, it's every man for himself. So
Yeah, I think my worry with I guess my problem with that is Ferrari's always been a team player. So I mean, we saw that unfold with this
team player. Tell me about the Schumacher era.
When you drive for Ferrari, you drive for the team. You don't drive for Sebastian Vettel or Kimi Raikkonen.
True, yeah.
So what I was saying, and I guess this race supports that fact too, because you saw what they did with Raikkonen. But we'll cover that later. What I mean is that Vettel should have considered the team result heading into turn 1.
He could have taken out both of them.
Right,
he could have taken out, but I think he compromised Raikkonen's race to the extent that it shouldn't have been. Raikkonen and him could have got out of turn 1 and the turn 1-2 segment and came out of there 1-2, and that would have been great for the team.
But I think Raikkonen kind of played it safe. I don't think at that point when Vettel pushed him, I think he kind of played it safe. I don't think he wanted to get into a big battle with Vettel.
I think the other thing was you saw Raikkonen. I think he was sitting in 4th place, pounding around behind Verstappen. At that point, it didn't seem like he had the genuine pace even when the Red Bull was going off in the tires. It didn't seem like he could convert from that that P2 position into genuine race pace for some reason.
Yeah, over the years, I think Raikkonen has always demonstrated race pace, but I think recently it's been more qualifying pace, and he's not converting when it comes down to the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. So the next big event that happened in that race was the pit stops between Mercedes and Ferrari. How it played out,
or lack thereof, because I think it was not to cut you off, but I think Red Bull was the one reacting quicker than anyone.
Well, they were ultras, so they reacted first, so they had to get in first, and then I think Mercedes came out second.
Yeah. So on the first round of pit stops, when Ferrari and Mercedes went, it almost seemed like the pace of having 6 cars up front, 6 genuine contenders, sort of caught Ferrari off guard, because they not only did they have to account for Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas, they suddenly had Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo with genuine race pace coming from behind. Yeah. So it was pretty tough on their end.
To the Red Bull pit crew, they were changing tires like lightning fast. I mean, one after the other. They were both coming in couple seconds apart, and they handled it.
Sure did.
Yeah, they executed, because that's not an easy task to do. You mess up the first car, and you ended up messing up the race for both cars. So.
Yeah, it's not often you see stacked pit stops in Formula One. That's usually very thought through, and this time Red Bull did it 2 times in one race. So
Yeah, they
that was
just
awesome.
reacted. This wasn't even planned, so that was amazing.
Okay, further down through the race now, you had this safety car come out, and it seemed like everyone else except for Red Bull was caught off guard with that. Isn't that interesting that Red Bull was the one that reacted to it?
Can I weigh in on this? Because I feel since Robert likes conspiracies, I wanted to just point out a small bit of conspiracy that I saw in this. So, do you guys remember what brought up the safety car?
Was it a Red Bull car?
Well,
Toro Rossos.
Red
The
Bull,
Toro
branded
Rossos.
Red
Yes.
Bull. So 2 Toro Rossos got into each other. You don't usually see that, first of all, but 2 Toro Rossos got into each other, right? Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Then came a radio call. Do you remember who the radio call was? To say there's too much debris on the surface and they needed a
I knew there was a
safety
radio
car?
call. I don't remember.
It was a Red Bull driver. He wasn't driving for Red Bull, but he's a Red Bull sponsor driver. Carlos Sainz.
That was one of his.
Sainz
Yeah.
called it in. So do we want to feed conspiracies or no?
I'm not going.
No, I'm not going for. Cause
Come on, Robert.
I think what Ferrari and Mercedes were worried about at that point was track position, as opposed to where the Red Bull guys were. I think that's where the Red Bull guys took the gamble.
Yeah, and I think they were in a position to more gamble on the race result. I mean, they were running on the 3rd rows to start. Yes, they had Max, who made that really good start and pulled himself up, but I don't think he had much pace to challenge Bottas and Vettel on not normal race conditions. So they had to take that gamble, I believe.
Yeah.
I think following up on what Mark said is that I don't want to feed conspiracies here, but it's interesting because I think Verstappen on the GPS trace, they were showing he was maybe like 3 to 4 seconds away from pit entry when that safety car was called. So I mean,
How did he know?
how did he know within 3 to 4 seconds? How did the entire team know within 3 to 4 seconds? I'm pitting both cars. How did the entire team?
How did the only team know?
How did the only team know that we're pitting both cars, and how did they know that get all these tires ready to pit both cars with the safety? That's really interesting.
Yeah, but I'm not going to read into it.
Me neither.
I don't know. It's not the first time we've seen crash gates in Formula One, right?
Nelson Piquet.
Nelson Piquet,
Fernando
2008,
Alonso.
cost Felipe Massa a world championship.
Ferrari driver.
Further on down the field, I mean, still with the Red Bull Ferrari, you almost can't go away from it from this race because,
Believe it or not, I don't even remember seeing a Sauber car televised.
yeah,
I don't think that they focused on any of the midfield racing.
I think you had a piece of it with Alonso when he took Vettel, but apart from that, I don't think there was any more focus on the midfield.
That's like 3 seconds of the race.
That's how quick it was for Fernando to go around him.
but I mean, going back to this theme, because it was such a great race because you saw these 6 cars fighting it out.
Yeah.
You had Verstappen obviously coming through the field, gets to Hamilton, and he decides, how old is Verstappen now? 20 years old?
No, he's older than that. I think he's 21, 22.
So somewhere in that
Isn't
area.
acted.
Verstappen decides, I'm going to drive around the outside of a reigning 4-time world champion. Which one of you guys has the, for lack of a better word, large extensions? Hint David Hobbs. Which one? I mean, he's got some really large extensions to be thinking he's driving around the outside of Lewis Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that eventually cost him the race because I think Hamilton, he got pushed wide, and then Ricciardo took
He
him
didn't get
over.
pushed wide. He ran off.
Yeah, he ran off, and then
he got pushed wide.
well, whatever it was,
A 4-time world champion can overdrive a car into the turn.
Yes.
Yes.
You don't push him wide, you just drive it wide. That's all.
whatever it was, I know that's when Ricciardo passed him and Lewis at the same time.
Yeah.
So again, I think he lost the race because of that same move.
So back on that same Verstappen team, he's been just scrappy all season. Do you think?
Nah, it's not all season. His whole career. That's what got him up here.
I mean, but even this season, it's 3 races in a row. You had Australia, he was spinning. Bahrain, he put it in the wall, hit Lewis Hamilton. This race, he was spinning in practice sessions. You had Christian Horner saying Sky that they had a discussion. Is Max Verstappen at this age, is he cut out to be in a top front running team?
When he matures.
At this age, right now, at this point in time.
I think they need to send him back to Toro Rosso. If you ask me.
So you're saying that he's like a young Danny Kvyat?
I think he's a... What I called him personally was Maldonado 2.0.
The young torpedo now.
He's a little wild. Not a little, he's wild.
I think he takes too much
I think
risk.
his risk, yeah. I
Yeah,
think the
and
risk he takes.
He never think about where the risk is going to get him.
Yeah,
And unnecessary risk. I think that's the other part of it.
I think that's the operative part.
yeah, I agree with that. Unnecessary risk. Your risk is supposed to outweigh, or the reward is supposed to outweigh the risk in Formula One, right? And look at Daniel Ricciardo taking risks on Lewis Hamilton and Bottas.
Calculated risk.
Yes.
Those are very calculated, and that's what in Formula One you're supposed to be able to assess that. You know, it's in split seconds, but you're still supposed to be able to
All the people
assess it.
that Ricardo passed, not one chance did he have to pretty much hit anyone. Every pass he made was clean.
Clean. They were all clean.
Very clean. He didn't cut anyone off. He did undercut a couple, but, you know, that's the name of the game. It's racing.
The moves he did on Lewis Hamilton and Bottas, oh my God. From Lewis Hamilton, I called it. We were looking at the race, and I was like, Daniel Ricciardo is going to come from have the back straight away and make a move on Lewis Hamilton. And there he was.
No, it was a clean move. It was
I think Hamilton never saw that coming, so he didn't have the time to react because he just dived right in. Not a single lockup on the front wheels.
It was similar to the move Alonso did on Vettel. You remember that one?
No, I saw touching there.
Yeah.
I didn't see touching.
I mean, so
it was a good move that Ricardo did. I watched it back. It was clean.
we'll get back to Ricardo in a bit, and then back to Verstappen on Vettel. I think that was also a big point in the race because it sort of ruined Verstappen's race. It ruins Vettel's race.
Handed Ricardo the win right there too.
Right?
Yep.
Sure did.
Gave his teammate the win.
And there you're seeing the contrast of Verstappen spinning everywhere, running off the track, and then you have Ricardo just executing like there's no tomorrow. And I think that's where Red Bull has to take a hard, long look in the mirror and say, is Verstappen the person we want to invest over the next 5 years, or is it Ricardo?
They're going to lose Ricardo at the end of this season.
Where do you think he's going?
I think he's going to be a Ferrari driver next year.
I could possibly see him as a Ferrari driver.
You
Replacing Kimi?
I know they have Leclerc, but I mean,
Leclerc is still young.
Yeah, Leclerc was still young.
I think if Daniel Ricciardo ends up in Ferrari, it'll make for some exciting races again with him and Vettel teamed up. They've had a good. I think they had a good run at Red Bull, but it was only 1 year and in an underperforming car. To see both of them in the same seat right now, that'll be interesting.
All right, back up to Daniel Ricciardo now. Oh man, boy oh boy, was the honey badger there, right? I mean, he just everyone he came across, he was like, "See you, thank you later." According to Ricciardo, you just sometimes you just lick the stamp and mail it. I mean, you gotta love Ricciardo. I don't care which team he drives, so you gotta love that guy.
so Chris, let me ask you, with Ricardo, do you think he's a title contender?
This year?
Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, they're obviously gonna struggle in quali at some tracks, but their race pace is there. Red Bull's race pace is there, and if they can take care of the tires,
Yeah.
he could be up in the mix. I mean, you see how important tires are this year, especially with this race with Pirelli not bringing a compound they're skipping a compound. Do you think, I mean, any one of you guys, how much do you think that contributed to the show that we had today?
That was a big element. I think the tires definitely was a huge element, but I think also the teams got caught sleeping too.
Right,
When I say the
strategy.
teams, specifically Ferrari and Mercedes got caught sleeping by Red Bull, and Red Bull executed well when these two teams lagged. And I guess it kind of plays into the theme of the year so far. In Australia, Lewis got caught out by Ferrari and took that win. Then in Bahrain, Mercedes, or Bottas rather, couldn't make a move, or at least make a move stick on Vettel, so he couldn't steal that win. But here is Red Bull stealing a win right out of Ferrari and potentially Mercedes' noses.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
So, Robert, let me ask you a question. I read earlier that Lewis Hamilton claims that Mercedes is the third fastest car out there to Ferrari and Red Bull. I'm asking, he put it out there. Do you think this is a bluff, or what do you think?
I don't necessarily. I don't think so. I think Mercedes is still the second quickest car. I just think they need to get back to the drawing board and fine tune some stuff, for a better lack of word. But I think they definitely is the second team.
Second to whom?
Ferrari.
But so you think? When's the last time Lewis Hamilton actually came out and said we have the fastest car, even though they dominated Formula One for 4 years straight?
I don't think
Never. He's always said this person's fast or this team is fast, and he's always put himself in a position where he's the chaser. Again, where Lewis Hamilton exceeds is when he's chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
So with that said, what's your thoughts on Baku then?
I think it's all in play again. I mean, we've seen 3 races that we couldn't predict. Even if you tried, you couldn't predict these 3 races, right? And then coming up, Baku, a very different circuit again. I mean, I don't even want to remember last year at Baku, but a very different circuit again this year. So I think we're all in for a really good race. I think if anything, the practice sessions will be a good indicator of what we can expect.
So let me ask you this: you think Lewis Hamilton's going to take that 2-week vacation he normally takes in order to come back strong? I mean, that's typically what he needs, right? He's got to fly to LA to see Roscoe and Coco for a little bit, and then.
I hope he does. Because remember what happened when he came back from the last vacation. He put it down.
Hope he does.
He's gonna ground that red jet somewhere in England, and he's gonna hang out at Brackley.
But I think Mark touched on a similar topic earlier. So far in all the races, I think we can all agree that strategy is one. From Australia, Bahrain, and the last race, I think strategy has won all 3 races. I think we can agree on that.
It's close. It's close.
I wouldn't say it's all strategy. Mark and I were talking about this yesterday. It's come down to luck for
In Bahrain, especially that was
a
really
luck
lucky.
win, and the one with Ricardo winning is that was strategy or just quick thinking and a little bit of luck if it wasn't a planned event.
But you can say the same thing. You can say the same thing for Australia too.
No, yeah, I guess, but I mean, if Red Bull didn't plan this, that was luck on their side. So.
Yeah, that's some luck though.
Yeah.
So back to Lewis. What is up with his performance? I mean, today you saw him in the race. He was nowhere to be found around anyone. He couldn't keep up with anybody in the top 6. You had a feeling that even if Raikkonen was behind him, Raikkonen was going to have a charge at him because he was having a charge at a faster Bottas. What's up with Lewis Hamilton?
I don't know. It's got to be a car issue. This all started after they changed the transmission.
Yeah, I think me and Nick was talking about this earlier. Honestly, don't know.
You don't think so?
No, I think I read somewhere.
I want to hear.
I think I read somewhere like he was in no man's land or his own. I can't remember.
Yeah,
what it
he said he was in his own race.
in his own race or something like that.
Did Mercedes give him a slower transmission?
No.
Oh.
I mean, I know there's been thoughts around these places that Mercedes has given Lewis Hamilton a slower car
just know
before,
that
right, Nick?
He had an extremely fast car for qualifying Australia.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
After that race, they changed a piece. They could have changed something. I don't know.
Yeah, but from race to race, track to track, the setup of the car is completely different. So while one component could have been different in the car, everything else around the car changes.
Should have been the same.
No, everything changes from
I see
track
what
to
you
track.
mean. Yeah, they
So,
tweak it for the track.
Yeah, so
I don't know if
the tires is different. You have your complete balance and setup that's very different going into every track.
I don't know. I agree with that, but at the end of the day, they got to figure out their game, because in Bahrain they were complaining that the tires were too hot, and
It's too cold in China.
China was too cold.
Too cold.
What do they want? They want to go race on Mars?
I completely agree that it's not a Lewis Hamilton issue, because Lewis Hamilton has consistently delivered over years, right? However, he's had his ups and downs in those years that he did win championships, right?
Agreed.
But I believe this is a car issue. This is not a driver capability, because he's a 4-time world champion and he's always in the front of the grid, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. He just, his body language just doesn't look confident to me. I mean, you look at him in all the interviews. Like I said in the last show, he's saying the right things. He's just the confidence in his. He doesn't have that Lewis Hamilton swag, and maybe he needs that 2-week vacation out in Bali or something. But it's not happening at this point in time for Lewis Hamilton.
How do you guys? How do you? Sky, I think they need to spend more time focusing on the back of the grid too, or the middle to back. The whole time it was up front, and we as fans love that, but you do want to see what's going on in the middle sectors and of the race. So
I agree, but what's bad is that towards the end of the race there was a battle. I can't remember with who. I think Vettel and
Science.
No, someone else.
That was with Vettel. And
There was a battle towards the back end that we really wanted to see, and we couldn't see anything because then they started focusing on the midfield battles, or actually just driving around the midfield.
I think Liberty's answering that though with the F1 TV, because that'll give us the control to see what we want to watch.
Yeah.
But what that does, the problem with that is that we're going to need multiple TVs.
Yeah, and it
So-
kind of takes away the commentary too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they will provide some commentary.
Really?
I think yeah.
Okay.
They will provide commentary on a world feed, and then all the other cameras are secondary cameras.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's what the plan is
Very cool.
with Liberty. So I mean, exciting times for Formula One. You gotta love what 2018 is shaping up to be, right?
Definitely.
definitely.
So
Yeah, I agree. I like the fact that no one constructor is running away with Formula One, or weren't running away with the results. We're getting some mixture. I'm not a Red Bull fan, but I am a big Ricciardo fan.
Me too.
And seeing Ricciardo take that race win, that was awesome. And then in the way he took it, I can't think of any time Ricciardo won a race when it wasn't exciting.
That is
When
so
he
true.
didn't drive through the field.
that's what he
That
said
is so
today
true.
too.
That's
It
what he
was
says. Yeah.
crazy.
He doesn't win board races.
Yeah.
He's always find a crazy race, put it in front of Ricardo. He's gonna beat the
And he
crap out of
delivers.
everybody.
He delivers every time. And
Yeah.
that speaks to his capability. Now, you can talk about Max being fast on one sector of the track, or being fast on the outside of a turn or something, but to deliver consistently results every time, you can't take that away from a driver.
And that's what you need. You need someone to put it together over the course of a season, not over the course of a race or maybe 2 races.
If you ask me though, I would say that Ricciardo has a better chance of being a world champion than Verstappen,
I fully agree with
Yes.
you.
or
Fully
quicker. It'll happen quicker for Ricciardo than it would for Verstappen.
I hope so. I hope to see that.
I hope so too. I'm a big fan of Ricciardo. I even told Mark, when Lewis retires, Ricciardo will be my favorite driver.
With that being said, I do think Ricardo is a step closer to being world champion. At the same time, I think Max has a much stronger full career ahead of him. Potentially, as long as he irons out these issues, maybe he'll take a penalty like what they did to Roman Grosjean back in 2012.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's maybe that's what they need at this point for him. He's just not putting it together.
Yeah.
All right.
What about McLaren, Chris? I know Alonso had a pretty good race. What do you think, Mark?
Are you referring to the pass on Alonso?
No,
on
just in
Vettel?
general.
Yes.
Listen,
He had a good race.
From a team that had no points last year, they have points now on the board. So
When are we going to start taking callers? We need our McLaren expert Ricky to call in and
Biased McLaren expert.
No, diehard McLaren fan, and I think his opinion would be valued here.
I think Fernando had a good race. McLaren didn't have a good race. When McLaren has a good race is when both cars are able to deliver. Fernando had a good race, and that's because, I mean, you pointed it out, Fernando can drive anything anywhere, right? The pass on Vettel, I must address that. It's easy to pass an ailing car. He was literally dropping down in pace. He had a damaged car which a bulldozer ran into, remember?
Can I comment on that, though? I do want to add, Vettel added to his own injury as well when he did the little burnout to turn the car around.
I agree.
His tires were almost toast, and he just finished it off.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the end all for him. I think he had some floor damage and all that
Did he?
stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, he had some pretty major floor damage.
Yeah.
What's
So
major?
When the bulldozer ran into him,
parts of the floor were missing.
parts of the floor were missing. So that's a lot of downforce coming out the rear end of the car.
And you could see him right off the bat. He started dropping down the field. So no, I agree completely that burning up the tires and whatnot. But you don't know what the situation is.
He definitely
in the
did
car.
it in anger. I mean, he wouldn't have done it intentionally to burn up his tires, obviously, but it was just a reaction from him to get back into the race. So.
I agree. How do you guys feel about Vettel's handling of the Max Verstappen bulldozer issue post race?
I can't really comment much on it. I just saw that he was impressed of Verstappen's quick apology.
Yeah, I think that's what I read. I think.
How often have you seen Verstappen apologize for
First
something?
time, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was told by his team, you need to get out there.
Yeah. The last time a Red Bull driver ran into Sebastian Vettel, do you remember him?
He no longer races in Formula One.
I'm not trying to insinuate anything. I'm just saying that both drivers handled the issue well, and I think that speaks to where Vettel's at right now, because last year I think he would have blew up and started yelling at somebody over the radio. This year was pretty much radio silence. He actually said, I'm not even going to say anything on this thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
even
he did
after
say
the
that,
race
sure.
was done and he was in front of the mic, in front of the cameras, he didn't really have much to say aside from it was a mistake. He apologized and move on.
He actually looked out for Verstappen. He said, these things happen in races, and when there was a tailwind coming down the back straight, and then he locked his wheels, and
Yeah.
he wasn't overly critical, which impressed me, and I don't know. I think Vettel's in for the long game this year. That's what he's looking at right now. He's looking at number 5, also his number. Anything else?
No, I think I'm excited to see Baku. I'm excited to see the cars back on track. And once the cars are back out, we'll give a good idea of what to expect from Baku. Now, obviously, we'll have an idea what to expect pace-wise, but we have no idea what the result will be. And these 3 races are definitely indicators of that.
You know what? And I think that's what the fans want.
Absolutely.
They don't want another
Absolutely.
3 seasons.
Completely agree.
Predictability
Of Mercedes dominating, or
I mean,
Yeah.
I want to see that, but it's not fun.
I know Robert doesn't want to see that either.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Robert.
All right. With that, I think we'll wrap it up here. I mean, we apologize that we didn't get to speak too much about the midfield. We try to keep this under half hour. But, like we said, a lot of the action was up front, and we didn't even see too much of the midfield battles today. If you like our video, hit the subscribe button, hit like below, leave us a comment. Even if you don't like our video, leave us a comment. Tell us what you don't like, what we really should incorporate. But let's hear from you. This is an engaging forum. We'd love to talk Formula One, and hit like, subscribe, follow us on all our social media.
Share it.
Yep.
Share it. Send us some feedback. If you love Scuderia Ferrari, hit like, subscribe.
Shameless.
Thank you.
It's a good thing we can edit things out.
We'll be back. We'll be back before the Baku Grand Prix doing a race preview show. This has been thoroughly enjoyable. I'm sure all the guys enjoyed
If
it.
you guys would like to join us, shoot us an email. Chris can give you the email address, but we are set up to take Skype callers, so
We're working on it.
yeah.
We're close. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
We'll see you
Thank you.
before Baku.
thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.